Prince Harry always believed he knew everything about the woman he married, the actress turned duchess who captured his heart with what seemed like effortless charm and genuine warmth. But rumor has it, behind closed doors, a completely different story is unfolding. Sources close to the Sussex household claim Harry has been blindsided by a wave of revelations about Meghan's past, and insiders whisper that the prince is absolutely stunned by what he's discovering. The fairy tale he thought he was living might have been built on carefully constructed illusions, and now the cracks are starting to show in ways he never anticipated. Word on the street suggests that new information has surfaced about Meghan's years before she became the Duchess of Sussex, and it paints a picture that's drastically different from the narrative the world has been sold. We're talking about allegations of calculated social climbing, strategic relationships that were dropped the moment they served their purpose, and a pattern of behavior that several former friends and colleagues are now speaking about more openly. Palace insiders claim that Harry is being forced to confront uncomfortable truths about the woman sleeping beside him, truths that are reportedly shaking the very foundation of their relationship. According to reports surfacing from multiple sources, people from Meghan's past are coming forward with stories that challenge everything Harry thought he knew. Former friends describe a woman who was allegedly obsessed with fame and status, someone who carefully curated every friendship and connection based on what they could do for her career. Sources speculate that Harry is now hearing details about how Meghan operated in Hollywood, how she allegedly used people as stepping stones, and how she would reportedly ghost anyone who no longer served her ambitions. The timing of these revelations couldn't be worse for the couple, who are already facing mounting pressure from failed business ventures and declining public favor. Industry insiders suggest that Harry has been presented with information about Meghan's behavior during her Suits days, stories about how she treated colleagues and staff members, allegations that she was demanding, cold, and calculating in ways that mirror the complaints from royal household staff who fled their employment. Behind closed doors, people are saying that the prince is starting to see patterns he previously dismissed as jealousy or media fabrication. Sources close to the situation reveal that friends have tried to open his eyes before, but he refused to listen. Now, with mounting evidence and more people willing to speak out, Harry is reportedly struggling to reconcile the woman he married with the person being described by those who knew her first. But that was just the beginning of what promises to be an absolutely explosive unraveling. The Hollywood years were supposed to be Meghan's struggling actress phase, the humble beginnings that made her royal ascension even more remarkable. But sources from her past paint a drastically different picture. Reports are surfacing that Meghan was allegedly far more strategic than anyone realized, cultivating relationships with an almost surgical precision. Former acquaintances claim she had a talent for identifying who could help her climb higher and who needed to be left behind. One insider who knew her during the Suits era told reporters that Meghan kept meticulous mental notes about everyone's connections, constantly asking who people knew and what doors they could open for her. According to multiple sources, Meghan's approach to friendship was transactional in ways that left people feeling used and discarded. Industry insiders whisper about how she would befriend casting directors, producers, and anyone with influence, showering them with attention until she got what she needed. Then, the buzz in Hollywood circles suggests those same people would find themselves completely ghosted once they'd served their purpose. One former friend described the experience to a media outlet as being in Meghan's orbit one moment and completely erased from her life the next, with no explanation or acknowledgement of the years they'd spent supporting each other. The pattern allegedly extended beyond professional relationships. Sources claim that Meghan would strategically befriend women who had connections to wealth, power, or media influence. She reportedly studied their social circles like a chess player analyzing a board, always thinking 3 moves ahead about how each relationship could advance her position. Palace insiders now speculate that this same calculating approach continued when she entered royal life, which might explain why so many staff members fled and why her friendship with Kate Middleton allegedly never developed into the sisterly bond the public expected. Reports suggest that people from her Toronto days, when she was filming Suits, remember a woman who was pleasant to your face but allegedly ruthless when it came to protecting her image and advancing her interests. One source told reporters that Meghan would carefully control what information got shared about her, coaching friends on what they could and couldn't say if media came calling. Behind closed doors, people are saying she was already crafting a public persona that was quite different from her private behavior, practicing the image management that would later become her signature approach to royal life. The buzz from Hollywood indicates that casting directors and producers who worked with her noticed this pattern too. Sources speculate that she knew exactly how to present herself in auditions and meetings, morphing her personality to match what she thought people wanted to see. Industry insiders suggest this chameleon-like quality served her well professionally, but left people who knew her personally feeling like they never quite understood who the real Meghan actually was. And now, whispers from palace circles indicate that Harry might be grappling with that same unsettling realization. The revelations were only getting started, though. Trevor Engelson thought he was building a life with the woman he loved. The Hollywood producer married Meghan in 2008, and for a while sources say they seemed like any other ambitious young couple trying to make it in the entertainment industry. But according to people close to the situation, the marriage started crumbling the moment Meghan landed her role on Suits and relocated to Toronto. What happened next has former friends and associates painting a picture of coldness that allegedly foreshadowed her future pattern of cutting people out when they no longer fit her narrative. Reports suggest that Meghan simply mailed her wedding and engagement rings back to Trevor, ending their marriage with a level of detachment that left him and those around him absolutely stunned. Sources close to Engelson claim he was blindsided by how quickly and completely she moved on, as if their years together had been erased from her story. Industry insiders whisper that she never looked back, never expressed regret, and seemed almost relieved to shed that chapter of her life now that bigger opportunities were presenting themselves. One friend of Trevor's told media outlets that the way Meghan handled the divorce was ice cold, showing a side of her that few people had seen before. The buzz in Hollywood circles suggests that Meghan viewed her first marriage as a stepping stone that had served its purpose. Sources speculate that once she achieved a level of fame and recognition through Suits, Trevor became part of a past she wanted to leave behind. People close to the situation claim she was already setting her sights on bigger targets, cultivating friendships in different circles, and positioning herself for the next phase of her carefully planned ascension. According to reports, she wanted a clean break that would allow her to reinvent herself without the baggage of a failed marriage hanging over her image. Palace insiders now suggest that Harry has been hearing these stories and starting to recognize uncomfortable parallels. Sources claim that friends and family members Meghan allegedly discarded follow a similar pattern to how she ended things with Trevor. The same coldness, the same surgical precision in cutting ties, the same ability to move forward without apparent emotional attachment to people who once meant something to her. Word on the street indicates that Harry is troubled by accounts from people who describe being completely erased from Meghan's life the moment they were no longer useful or aligned with her goals. Reports are surfacing that Trevor has remained largely silent about the marriage out of respect and desire to move on, but people in his circle claim the experience left him wary of how Meghan operates. Sources speculate that he saw firsthand how she could compartmentalize relationships and walk away without looking back. Industry insiders suggest that this same quality, this ability to cut ties without hesitation or remorse, has defined many of Meghan's relationships both before and after her time as a royal. And now whispers indicate Harry might be wondering if he's truly immune to that pattern. But the calculated behavior went back even further than anyone realized. The narrative Meghan sold to the world was charming in its simplicity. An American actress who knew little about the royal family, stumbling into a blind date with a prince and falling unexpectedly into a fairy tale. But sources close to the situation claim the reality was far more calculated than that romantic story suggests. Reports are surfacing that Meghan had been fascinated with British culture, royalty, and the prospect of living in London long before she ever met Harry. Former friends describe a woman who allegedly spent years positioning herself to make exactly the kind of connections that would eventually lead her into royal circles. According to people who knew her during her marriage to Trevor, Meghan would talk about wanting to spend extended time in London, expressing an almost obsessive interest in British society and culture. One former friend revealed to media outlets that Meghan kept books about Princess Diana on her bookshelf and would reference the royal family in conversations more frequently than seemed casual. Sources speculate that she wasn't just a fan. She was studying the landscape, understanding the players, and figuring out how someone from her background might break into those exclusive circles. The buzz among industry insiders suggests this wasn't idle daydreaming, but strategic planning disguised as innocent interest. Reports indicate that after her split from Trevor, Meghan began making frequent trips to London and deliberately cultivating friendships with British personalities who moved in elevated social circles. Sources claim she attended charity events, networked aggressively, and made sure she was visible in exactly the right places. Palace insiders now whisper that her connection to certain friends who knew Harry wasn't the coincidence it was portrayed to be. Word on the street suggests she may have been angling for an introduction long before that supposedly spontaneous blind date ever materialized. According to reports from people in her orbit during that time, Meghan would ask pointed questions about British men, specifically expressing interest in meeting someone famous and English. Sources close to TV personality Lizzie Cundy claim Meghan was quite direct about wanting to be set up with well-connected British men. Industry insiders suggest this wasn't just about romance, but about access to a world she'd been studying and planning to enter. The pattern allegedly involved careful image crafting, strategic friendships, and positioning herself as exactly the kind of modern, sophisticated woman who could bridge American celebrity culture with British aristocracy. Palace sources now speculate that Harry has been confronted with information suggesting their meeting wasn't quite the serendipitous blind date he believed it to be. Reports indicate that people close to the situation have tried to show him how Meghan's actions in the years leading up to their relationship reveal a pattern of deliberate positioning. Behind closed doors, people are saying that what Harry thought was fate might have been far more orchestrated than he ever imagined. Sources claim he's struggling with the possibility that he was a target rather than a lucky accident in Meghan's carefully constructed journey to relevance and status. And the allegations about her behavior only got more troubling from there. The complaints from royal household staff who fled Meghan's employment were widely reported, but sources sources suggest those weren't isolated incidents. Reports are now surfacing from former colleagues at Suits and other early career ventures, painting a picture of someone who was allegedly demanding, controlling, and difficult to work with, long before she ever set foot in Kensington Palace. Industry insiders claim that people who worked alongside her during her acting days remember similar patterns of behavior that would later cause palace staff to quit in tears and frustration. According to sources from the Suits set, Meghan knew exactly how to present herself to producers and directors, while allegedly treating people she considered beneath her status very differently. Reports suggest that hair and makeup artists, assistants, and crew members experienced a version of Meghan that was far less charming than the one she showed to people who could advance her career. One former colleague described to media outlets how Meghan would allegedly be warm and engaging with executives, then turn cold and demanding the moment she was dealing with support staff. The buzz in entertainment circles suggests this wasn't occasional bad behavior, but a consistent pattern that left people feeling diminished and disrespected. Palace insiders now speculate that the royal household incidents weren't about Meghan struggling to adapt to a new environment, but rather revealed her true character under pressure. Sources claim that multiple staff members from her pre-royal life have stories that mirror the allegations from Kensington Palace. Reports indicate that assistants would find themselves on the receiving end of early morning texts with demands and criticism, that Meghan would allegedly speak down to people she viewed as subordinates, and that she created an atmosphere where staff felt they could never do anything right. Word on the street suggests Harry has been hearing these consistent accounts from completely different periods of her life, making them harder to dismiss as jealousy or adjustment struggles. According to reports, some former colleagues from her acting days describe working with Meghan as exhausting because she allegedly needed to control every aspect of how she was perceived. Sources claim she would coach people on what they could say about her, monitor social media obsessively for any mention of her name, and reportedly respond harshly to anyone who didn't fall in line with her preferred narrative. Industry insiders suggest this controlling behavior extended to friendships and professional relationships alike, creating an environment where people felt manipulated rather than valued. The buzz from multiple sources indicates that Meghan's reputation in Toronto entertainment circles wasn't nearly as pristine as her public image suggested. Reports are surfacing that casting directors and producers quietly shared warnings about her difficult behavior, though few wanted to speak publicly for fear of backlash. Sources speculate that people who worked with her learned to tread carefully, understanding that crossing Meghan could result in being completely frozen out, or worse, becoming the target of her behind-the-scenes maneuvering. Palace insiders now whisper that Harry is being confronted with evidence that the bullying allegations weren't anomalies, but part of a long-established pattern of how Meghan treats people when cameras aren't watching. The impact on Harry was becoming impossible to ignore. Sources close to the Sussex household claim that Harry's demeanor has changed noticeably in recent months. Palace insiders whisper that the prince who once defended Meghan against every criticism, who walked away from his family and country for her, is now asking questions he never allowed himself to consider before. Reports suggest that friends who tried to warn him years ago are now being proven right, and Harry is struggling to process what that means for his marriage and the choices he's made. Word on the street indicates that the united front the couple always presented is showing cracks that even their carefully managed public appearances can't completely hide. According to sources, Harry has been reaching out to old friends he'd distanced himself from after marrying Meghan, seeking perspectives he once dismissed as jealousy or misunderstanding. Reports indicate these conversations have been eye-opening in ways that are deeply uncomfortable for the prince. Industry insiders suggest that people who knew Meghan before Harry are now sharing stories with him directly, no longer filtered through her explanations or rebuttals. The buzz in royal circles suggests Harry is hearing consistent patterns from completely unconnected sources, making it increasingly difficult to write off the allegations as coordinated attacks or media fabrication. Palace insiders claim that Harry's protective instincts, which once made him Meghan's fiercest defender, are now creating internal conflict as he confronts information that challenges everything he believed about their relationship. Sources speculate that he's replaying moments from their courtship and marriage through a different lens, wondering if gestures he interpreted as love and devotion were actually calculated moves by someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Reports suggest that friends have noticed him becoming more withdrawn, less certain in conversations about their future, and visibly stressed in ways that go beyond the usual pressures of public life and business failures. According to sources close to the situation, the revelations have allegedly triggered doubts about fundamental aspects of their relationship. Word on the street suggests Harry is questioning whether Meghan's interest in him was ever really about him as a person, or always about what he represented. Palace insiders whisper that he's troubled by the timing of certain decisions, the patterns in how Meghan handles relationships, and the uncomfortable similarities between how she allegedly treated others and dynamics he's now recognizing in his own marriage. Reports indicate that people in his inner circle have observed him seeming less confident, less willing to make sweeping declarations about their love story, and more guarded when discussing their future plans. The buzz from multiple sources suggests that Meghan is aware of Harry's changing attitude and is reportedly working hard to reinforce their bond and remind him of the narrative they've built together. Industry insiders claim she's been more affectionate in public, more vocal about their partnership, and allegedly more controlling about who Harry speaks with and what information he's exposed to. Sources speculate that she recognizes the danger of Harry developing doubts and is deploying the same charm and manipulation that allegedly worked so effectively when they first met. But whispers from palace circles indicate that this time, her usual tactics might not be enough to stop Harry from seeing what's been in front of him all along. The family dynamics made everything even more complicated. Meghan's estrangement from her family was always portrayed as their fault, a sad reality of toxic relatives who couldn't handle her success and happiness. But sources close to the situation suggest there's another side to that story, one that Harry is only now beginning to fully understand. Reports are surfacing that Meghan's pattern of cutting off family members wasn't reactive but strategic, part of a carefully orchestrated image management campaign that required eliminating anyone who might complicate her carefully crafted narrative. Palace insiders whisper that Harry has been hearing accounts from people who knew the Markle family dynamics firsthand, and the picture they paint is drastically different from what Meghan told him. According to sources, Meghan's relationship with her father, Thomas, wasn't always the disaster she described to the royal family and the public. Reports indicate that he supported her dreams, funded her education, and remained involved in her life through her early acting career. But industry insiders suggest that once Meghan achieved a certain level of success and started moving in more elevated circles, her father became an embarrassment she needed to distance herself from. Word on the street indicates that the shift happened gradually, with Meghan allegedly becoming less responsive to his calls, more critical of his lifestyle, and increasingly unavailable as she climbed higher in Hollywood and social circles. Sources close to Meghan's half-siblings claim that she was warm and connected to extended family members when it served her purposes, but allegedly turned cold the moment they became inconvenient to her image. Reports suggest that her relationship with her niece Ashley was genuinely close until Meghan decided that connection could be exploited by media or create complications with the narrative she was building about her family. Palace insiders now speculate that Harry has been confronted with evidence that Meghan didn't just fail to invite Ashley to their wedding because of palace guidance, but because she had already begun the process of cutting off that entire side of her family to create a cleaner, simpler story about her background. According to multiple sources, the pattern of family estrangement follows the same blueprint as her treatment of former friends and colleagues. The buzz in royal circles suggests Meghan viewed her family relationships through a transactional lens, maintaining connections when they were useful and severing them without apparent remorse when they became liabilities. Reports indicate that people who knew the family describe Meghan as someone who was always aware of how relationships would play in public, constantly calculating whether someone enhanced or diminished her carefully constructed image. Industry insiders claim this strategic approach to family bonds troubled even some of her Hollywood friends, who found her coldness toward blood relatives disturbing. Palace sources now whisper that Harry is grappling with the realization that Meghan's willingness to completely cut off her own father and siblings might reveal something fundamental about her character. Reports suggest he's troubled by the ease with which she erased people who raised her and supported her, wondering what that says about her capacity for loyalty and genuine emotional connection. Word on the street indicates that friends have pointed out the parallel between how Meghan treated her family and how she's encouraged Harry to distance himself from his own, raising uncomfortable questions about whether he's been manipulated into isolation that serves her purposes rather than his well-being. Her business dealings told a similarly troubling story. The failed business ventures weren't just bad luck or poor timing, sources suggest. Reports are surfacing that Meghan's approach to partnerships and collaborations follows a pattern that leaves collaborators feeling used and betrayed. Industry insiders claim that people who worked with her on various projects, from the Netflix deal to the Spotify podcast to her lifestyle brand launches, describe similar experiences of grand promises, poor follow-through, and alleged credit grabbing that left actual workers feeling exploited. Word on the street indicates that Harry has been hearing from business contacts who tried to make ventures work with Meghan, only to discover that working with her was far more complicated and frustrating than they ever anticipated. According to sources close to the Spotify debacle, Meghan allegedly had big ideas but no real work ethic to back them up. Reports suggest that production staff and collaborators would present concepts and do heavy lifting on content development, only to have Meghan show up, make superficial contributions, and allegedly claim creative ownership. The buzz in entertainment circles indicates that the Archetypes podcast struggled not because of lack of resources or support from Spotify, but because Meghan reportedly refused to put in the consistent work required and allegedly created a toxic environment where staffers felt undervalued and overworked. Industry insiders claim that her reputation in podcasting circles took a massive hit, with producers quietly sharing warnings about the challenges of working with her. Palace insiders now speculate that the Netflix situation followed a similar trajectory. Sources suggest that Harry and Meghan promised groundbreaking content but allegedly delivered projects that felt self-indulgent and disconnected from what audiences actually wanted. Reports indicate that production teams grew frustrated with Meghan's alleged need to control every aspect while simultaneously being unavailable or unresponsive when actual work needed to happen. Word on the street suggests that Netflix executives were disappointed not just with viewership numbers but with the difficulty of actually collaborating with the Sussexes, particularly Meghan, who sources claim had opinions about everything but follow through on very little. The lifestyle brand launches paint an even more troubling picture. According to multiple sources, reports suggest that Meghan allegedly partnered with artisans and small business owners, promising exposure and collaboration, then either ghosted them or allegedly took their ideas without proper credit or compensation. Industry insiders claim that the sold-out launches weren't impressive business success, but deliberate scarcity tactics designed to create artificial demand, while allegedly failing to deliver on promises made to early supporters and subscribers. The buzz from business circles indicates that reputation crisis experts view her brand management as disastrous, with one strategist publicly calling her approach fraudulent and built on using people rather than genuine substance. According to sources, Harry has been confronted with accounts from people who entered business relationships with Meghan in good faith, believing in her vision and public persona, only to allegedly discover that she was far more interested in what they could do for her image than in creating genuine partnerships. Palace insiders whisper that these consistent stories from unconnected business contexts are forcing Harry to recognize patterns he's been unwilling or unable to see before. Reports suggest he's troubled by allegations that Meghan views every relationship, professional or personal, through the lens of what she can extract from it, rather than what she can genuinely contribute or build together. The toll on their marriage was becoming undeniable. Behind the carefully staged photo opportunities and coordinated public statements, sources claim the Sussex marriage is under strain like never before. Palace insiders whisper that the revelations about Meghan's past and the consistent patterns emerging from multiple sources have created tension that even their practiced united front can't fully conceal. Reports suggest that Harry has become more withdrawn, less willing to automatically defend Meghan's every action, and increasingly questioning whether the life they've built together is based on the foundation he believed it was. Word on the street indicates that people close to the couple have noticed a shift in their dynamic, with Harry seeming less certain and Meghan allegedly working overtime to maintain control of the narrative both publicly and privately. According to sources, arguments that once might have been quickly smoothed over now allegedly linger and resurface, with Harry bringing up concerns that Meghan can no longer easily dismiss or explain away. Industry insiders suggest that the mounting evidence of her calculated behavior toward others has made it impossible for Harry to ignore the possibility that similar manipulation might be at play in their own relationship. Reports indicate that friends have observed him seeming less happy, less confident in their partnership, and more isolated than ever as he grapples with doubts he never allowed himself to seriously consider before. The buzz from palace circles suggests that Meghan recognizes the danger and has allegedly become more controlling about Harry's contacts, more insistent about presenting their relationship as perfect, and more aggressive in shutting down any outside voices that might encourage his doubts. Palace sources claim that the failed business ventures have added financial pressure that's exacerbating existing tensions. Reports suggest that Harry expected their California life to be financially sustainable through the deals Meghan helped negotiate, but the reality has been far less lucrative than promised. Industry insiders speculate that this has created resentment and questions about whether Meghan's big plans were ever realistic or just another example of her overselling what she could actually deliver. Word on the street indicates that Harry has allegedly expressed frustration about their financial situation to friends, wondering if they gave up royal security and support for a California dream that was never as solid as Meghan claimed it would be. According to multiple sources, the stress has allegedly manifested in Harry's appearance and demeanor. Reports suggest he looks older, more tired, and less vibrant than he did before leaving royal life. Palace insiders whisper that people who've known Harry for years barely recognize the withdrawn, uncertain man he's become compared to the confident prince he once was. Sources claim that even his relationship with his children seems affected by the overall household tension, with Meghan allegedly controlling access and dynamics in ways that leave Harry feeling like a supporting player in his own family, rather than an equal partner in their children's upbringing. The buzz from sources close to the situation suggests that Meghan is reportedly aware that Harry's doubts represent an existential threat to the life she's built. Industry insiders claim she's allegedly been more affectionate in public, more vocal about their love story, and more insistent about isolating Harry from anyone who might reinforce his concerns. Reports indicate she's deployed the same charm offensive that worked when they first met. But palace sources whisper that Harry's growing awareness of her patterns might mean those tactics are losing their effectiveness. Word on the street suggests the question isn't whether their marriage can survive these revelations, but whether Harry will continue choosing to believe Meghan's version of reality over the mounting evidence suggesting something far more calculated has been happening all along. The implications for their future were staggering. The question everyone is asking behind closed doors is what happens next. Palace insiders speculate that Harry finds himself at a crossroads, forced to decide whether to continue defending a narrative he's starting to doubt, or finally confront the uncomfortable truth about who Meghan really is and what their relationship has actually been built on. Sources suggest that the prince who gave up everything for love is now wrestling with the possibility that the sacrifice was based on manipulation rather than the fairy tale he believed he was living. Reports indicate that people close to Harry are watching carefully, wondering if he'll find the strength to acknowledge what's becoming increasingly obvious, or if he'll double down on the story they've told the world, unable to admit that he might have been wrong about the most important decision of his life. According to industry insiders, more revelations are likely coming. Word on the street suggests that people who've remained silent about their experiences with Meghan are becoming emboldened as others speak out, and the public becomes more receptive to questioning the Sussex narrative. Sources claim that former colleagues, ex-friends, and business associates who felt intimidated into silence are now considering sharing their stories, particularly as they watch Meghan's carefully constructed image continue to crumble despite her aggressive damage control efforts. The buzz in entertainment and royal circles indicates that what surfaced so far might be just the beginning of a much larger unraveling. Palace sources whisper that the royal family is watching this situation unfold with a mixture of vindication and concern. Reports suggest that they tried to warn Harry about red flags they noticed during his courtship with Meghan, concerns he angrily dismissed as prejudice and jealousy. Industry insiders speculate that some family members feel their fears are being validated, but take no pleasure in watching Harry suffer the consequences of choices he made while rejecting their counsel. Word on the street indicates that whether reconciliation between Harry and his family becomes possible depends largely on whether he can acknowledge he was deceived rather than continuing to blame them for trying to protect him from someone they apparently saw through long before he was willing to consider their perspective. Sources close to the situation suggest that Meghan will fight to maintain her grip on the narrative and on Harry himself. Reports indicate she's allegedly already working on counter-strategies, preparing explanations for the allegations, and positioning herself as a victim of coordinated attacks rather than someone whose own behavior is finally catching up with her. Industry insiders claim she's too invested in the life she's built and the image she's cultivated to let it go without an intense battle. The buzz from palace circles suggests that whether Harry can break free from her influence depends on whether he's willing to face the pain of admitting he's been manipulated, a realization that would require questioning everything he's believed and defended for years. The truth about Meghan Markle's shady past is finally being exposed, and Harry's reaction to these revelations will determine not just the future of their marriage, but his own path forward. Will he continue standing by a woman whose calculated behavior and pattern of using people is becoming undeniable, or will he finally open his eyes to what insiders claim has been obvious to everyone else for years? Can their marriage survive the weight of these allegations and Harry's growing doubts? Or is this the beginning of the end for the Sussex fairy tale that so many people warned was too good to be true from the very start? What do you think Harry should do? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.